Oh boy, I guess it means it's time for the Zelda tier list. Now, if you've been watching my streams on and off for the past couple of years, you may know that I've been trying to complete all of the Zelda games that have dungeons in them, so I can do a massive Zelda dungeon tier list video. And that's why all of the Zelda games are not represented in this tier list. I've only gone with the ones that have, like, recognizable dungeons. So we're not doing, like, the CDI games, and we're not doing Cadence of Hyrule, even though that is, like, one of my favorite games on the Switch. And someone right now was like, the CDI game has dungeons in it, the one where you play as Zelda, and it's terrible, but you know what, I don't recognize it. I'm not recognizing that one. But we have 20 Zelda games here, and in my opinion, that's enough Zelda for everybody. And these are the 20 games that I decided I would play for the dungeon tier list video that I want to make down the road. Progress on that, just to give you a sense of how bad I am at managing time, is originally my thought was, I'll get this dungeon tier list video done in time for the release of Tears of the Kingdom. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't do that. Wait a minute, they're announcing this new one. There's going to come out this one where you play as Girl Link. I'll just do the video for that. And then that didn't happen either. And now here we are, like a year later. It's now the year 2047, and we're all cyborgs, and I'm just going to make this tier list video, and we're going to see how we do. I thought it'd be fun if we build the list from the bottom up, right? Like, if we go from the worst Zelda game on this list up to the best, because that way you'll just see the dwindling collection of Zelda games sitting there biting your nails like, oh man, when's my favorite Zelda game gonna land in the C tier so I can scroll down and leave a mean comment? I do love your mean comments, so I guess I'll go ahead and irritate the Spirit Tracks fans first. It is the worst Zelda game, kind of by far. Now, the version I played was on the Wii U, the Wii U Virtual Console thing, and I've read that the touchscreen on the Wii U, which is essential for Spirit Tracks because of the control scheme the game uses, has less resolution than the touchscreen on the DS, so it's harder to do, like, to get the stylus to see what pixel you're trying to touch than on the DS. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that I had a miserable time playing this game, and it's because of the control scheme. The touchscreen control scheme just does not work for a Zelda-like game. You immediately improve this game by just letting me use the D-pad and buttons. And so, surprising absolutely no one, the only other Zelda game I'm putting into the F tier is Phantom Hourglass, which is the other DS Zelda game. Although it's to the left of Spirit Tracks, so it's a little better than Spirit Tracks, but man, that's not saying much. These two games are a product of Nintendo making decisions to justify their weird DS hardware, when in reality, a Zelda game that just had standard Zelda controls would have been way, way better. After that tier, I don't think there's really a Zelda game we can call a complete failure. From now on, we're going to be... I mean, the D tiers are kind of failures, and the next D tier up is going to be Skyward Sword. I didn't play this on the Wii. I did play the Switch version, which is an HD version that has button controls instead of the motion controls. So I got to avoid the problem I had with the DS titles. I didn't have to swing my arm around like an idiot when playing this game. Still didn't enjoy it. The game is so linear that at any given time you really only have one option for where you're allowed to go, and depending on what story flags you've triggered will determine what state the world is in when you get there. So there's not even really a sense of exploring the world of Zelda and seeing what's out there. Like, everything is just slavishly beholden to the story. And then I just didn't think the combat and the dungeons were that good. The combat system where, like, you have to determine which way you're slashing your sword would have been terrible on the Wiimote, and was marginally better with a control stick, I just didn't like it at all. Not super happy with Skyward Sword. And staying on the Switch, the only other Zelda that I'm putting this low on the list in the D tier is Tears of the Kingdom. Look, I'm already not the world's biggest fan of Breath of the Wild. So Tears of the Kingdom has all of the same problems that I had with Breath of the Wild, which is much higher on the list. We'll get there. But it's predicated on this garbage construction system where you use like this green goo to stick stuff together to make machines, and I just don't understand the allure of this system. What always would happen to me is I would play and I'd be like, oh, I have this idea for a machine that will do something in the next 10 seconds of game, and then I would clunkily build this machine using just the world's worst interface for such things. And then the machine wouldn't work right. Like, it would immediately break and fall apart. And, like, I could probably sit down and really wrap my head around the mechanics of it. People out there get really good at building devices and things in this game. But I would just rather play Zelda. I don't know. I've been watching footage of the new Donkey Kong game for Switch 2 recently, and I feel like that's the game that needs this, like, cartoony, ridiculous, just absolutely slapstick Build-A-Bear kind of machine nonsense. Like, that would fit much better in a cartoon game than in Zelda. I don't understand what it's doing in Zelda. I never had fun with it, and I didn't like how much of the game made you use different versions of it. Also, it made it really, really hard for them to design, like, bespoke puzzle challenges, because you could always trivialize the puzzle challenges in the game, the shrines, or even the dungeon areas. You could pretty much always just trivialize them by building a machine. By gluing a rocket to your shield, you solve 90% of what the game can throw at you. Not impressed, not happy with Tears of the Kingdom. Good news is, though, now we're going up into just, the average Zelda games, the mid Zelda games. And this is a tier that I like to think of as just being the forgettable Zeldas. These are the ones that I have trouble keeping in my head. Because the thing about the Zelda series is none of the games are really bad when it comes right down to it. They're all really engrossing, and they have this property where they just reach out and grab your brain, and your first Zelda game is always going to be something really, really special. Like, nobody does what Zelda does. Even the bad ones. Like, even if Skyward Sword was your first Zelda game, you're going to remember it forever. It's going to be something really, really special. I kind of don't know what that feels like, because my first Zelda game was the first Zelda game. So I came into this series before there was even a series to come into. So there's a lot of these, like, middle year Zelda games that for me just kind of land in the C tier because they're kind of forgettable. But I do acknowledge that it's like a lot of people came into the series with these games. And the first two I'm going to slap down in the C tier are just going to be Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. And I lump these two together because I just can't I can't separate them in my head. Like, I can picture, I just played them a couple years ago, and I can just picture, like, situations I had, and, like, items I picked up, and areas of the world map that I went through, and bosses that I faced, but I could not tell you which events took place in which game. My understanding is that the games kind of have this reputation for, like, one of them is, like, a more puzzle focused game, like kind of branching off of Link's Awakening, while the other one is a more kind of combat focused game, kind of branching off the original Legend of Zelda. I didn't get any of that. Both of them just kind of felt like Oracle's games to me, if that makes sense. And then there's a third kind of spiritual successor to Oracle's, which is Minish Cap. This game, again, it was very cute. I did enjoy it. You get to shrink down. The shrinking mechanic is fun. It's on the Game Boy Advance, so it can do some kind of, like, sprite rotation and reflection and zooming stuff that the SNES wasn't really capable of with sprites. And that led to some interesting graphical effects. But yeah, just looking back, I just don't remember the game very well. It was just kind of middling and forgettable. The most angry I've ever been at a Zelda game in my life. I had a DSi, I think it was, the DSi. And it came installed with a bunch of Game Boy Advance games. Like what do they call it? The Ambassador package or whatever. So you got a bunch of Game Boy Advance games. There was like a Wario game and a Kirby game and a bunch of other stuff. I skipped a lot of GBA games back in the day. So I'm like, oh, cool, I've got some GBA games to play. When I played DS games at the time, I was really, really used to like playing the DS game and then closing the DS, which would automatically put whatever game it was into suspend mode. When you open the DS back up, it would just jump right back into the game. I played tons of like Etrian Odyssey like that, just a bunch of DS games. But if you did that with a GBA game, it would just exit out of the game. When you open the DS back up, you were back on the menu. So I played through the entire extremely boring and long intro sequence to Minish Cap. Got to a point where I'm like, okay, I got to go back to work or whatever. I was in an office at the time playing on my DS. Don't tell my boss from 15 years ago, but that's what I was doing. Played to a point, closed the DS thinking I'll just open this back up and jump into Minish Cap. Nope, I hadn't saved the game, so I just had to play through the whole intro again. And then I just never did until I played the game on the... did I play this on the Wii U? I must have played this on the Wii U. Anyway, that was my... the most angry I've ever been at a Zelda game in my life. And then the last, just kind of mid... Oh man, this is where I'm going to make some of you mad. I feel like up to this point, people are going to be just kind of nodding along like, yeah, you know what, I get it. Fair enough. I feel like I'm about to make some of you real mad with the... It's the top of the C tier. It's the very top of C tier. But yeah, this is going to... Some of your childhoods are about to get invalidated, as the top of C tier is the Wind Waker. So I've played this on the GameCube. Obviously, I was like a day one purchase for me. I've also played this on... I have the HD version on the Wii U. It's fine. Sailing is boring, and there's not enough dungeons. Those are the two things people always criticize about Wind Waker, and I don't really have a lot to add. It's just there's too much sailing and not enough dungeons. That's what it really comes down to. I love the art style. I really, really love the Toon Link aesthetic. I think you get a good kit in this game. I think like you get like the grappling hook is really fun. I think the combat system is really fun, how they kind of made the combat system a lot more dynamic over the N64 games, but overall, like the thought of going back to Wind Waker is just too much for me. I just don't want to do any of the sailing. And now we're coming up into just the good ones. These are the ones that I like. So what is the very bottom of the really good Zelda games? Well, for me, it is the Ocarina of Time Master Quest. Now, if you don't know what this is, excuse me, this was a version of Ocarina of Time with remixed dungeons. So most of the game is still the same, but the dungeons are different. And they were very limited in what they were able to do in the... Like, they couldn't change the geometry of the dungeons, right? They couldn't, like, remap the places. So they have the same shape. What they were able to do is change where the entities were the switches, the enemies. And so it really is, it's like, okay, what if an internet troll made the Ocarina dungeons? So you do get some fun stuff, like there are bomb plant wires along walls where you gotta like blow up one bomb plant and it blows up like 8 or 9 in succession up along a wall. There's other stuff where like you're stuck in a room for 3 hours and you realize there's half of a crystal switch across a gap that you need to shoot with an arrow. Stuff like that. There's a room where you just have to play all the songs. There's rooms in Jabu Jabu where there's like cow butts sticking out of the wall. That's hilarious. But yeah, overall, it feels like somebody's kid got into the Zelda level editor and just slapped all the dungeons around. So it's Ocarina of Time, but with less cohesive dungeons, which makes for not as great of an experience. And while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and put the second quest of the original Legend of Zelda here, and really for the same reasons. The dungeons get very sloggy in the second quest of the original NES Zelda. There are lots and lots of rooms where it's like, oh, I'm just fighting 40 blue dark nuts again. Lots of whiz robes everywhere again. Oh, this old man will steal your hearts if you can't afford to pay him, so you have to just reset your console or up A on the second controller to reset the game. A lot of that kind of stuff. It's just very, very mean to the player. I do love it as someone who's played Zelda 6 million times, but it's this low for a reason. And while we're talking about second quests, how about the other Ocarina second quest, which is Majora's Mask, which I'm putting here in the beats here. Majora's Mask is such a weird game, deliberately weird in a lot of ways. And some of it feels like they had the Ocarina engine, and what can we stretch this engine to do, and in what directions? And sometimes I agree with what they did, and other times I don't. I mostly remember just this game being a lot of mini-games. Before you're allowed into the dungeon, you've got to go through mini-games and side quests, and you've got to do a bunch of fetch quests, and there's lots and lots of things where you're under a timer. The game itself, you're under a 3-day timer for the whole game. So getting into the dungeons, I like to take my dungeons slow and methodical. So what would always happen to me is I would get into a dungeon at as close to the beginning of day one as I could, and by the time I was opening up the boss chamber or whatever, it was already closing in on the end of day 3. So I would have to go into a dungeon and then leave and then restart the day and then go back and resolve parts of the dungeon. Sometimes this is okay because you're rescouring the dungeons anyway, looking for fairies and stuff. But yeah, there's just a lot of cruft in Majora's Mask. It kind of reminds me of the modern Yakuza or Like a Dragon games, which have so much mini-game content and so much side content that you can kind of pick and choose what side content you want to do on a given playthrough. Except in Majora's Mask, a lot of it is on your crucial line. A lot of it is in your way, and you have to do it whether you like it or not. Also, the swimming controls just are not good. It's really difficult to just aim where you're going underwater. But yeah, it's a good game, and the version I'm talking about is the version playable on the DS, the 3DS version. I have the original N64 version, and I have a re-release of the N64 version on the GameCube, but I haven't played those versions of the game since 2001, so I can't speak to them. The next Zelda game here in the B tier, you know what? B for Breath of the Wild. I did mention I have a very deep love-hate relationship with Breath of the Wild. I was not impressed with the Breath of the Wild open world because I had played many open world games before that. And what Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild's open world, I just did not think it was that impressive. I didn't think it was cool that you got to climb everything, because when I played the game, every time I climbed something, I would spend 5 minutes climbing a hill or a mountain or a wall or something, and I'd get up to the top and there's nothing up there. There's nothing to do. You either... Sometimes you find a shrine, and the shrines sucked. I absolutely detested most of the shrines. Or you find a Korok seed that you don't care about because it's your 400th Korok seed. Or you find a treasure box that you don't care about because it's just a sword that's going to break when you use it anyway. There was a lot of enjoyment in the game to just inhabit the world and just kind of run around and have adventures, but there was really no point to anything. I just never felt like I had good direction. Early on in my first Breath of the Wild playthrough, I did feel like I had direction, because you have the early game goal of getting to all the towers and opening up the map, but once I did that, I'm like, okay, I've done that. Now it's just the story missions or go out and run around randomly. So I spent probably 60 hours just running randomly around the map, zigzagging back and forth. And it was fine. I mean, we're here in the B tier, so it was fine, but I didn't have the transcendent, life-changing experience that everybody else had with Breath of the Wild. Also, I got very frustrated with the combat system a lot of the time because I can't dodge, roll, and parry at, like, the best of times. And this game, dodging and parrying and stuff doesn't work very well. There are literally attacks in this game where you can not dodge roll, not like just walk out of the way of the attack so it misses you, and then push the parry button, and the game will still give you credit for the parry and let you go into your flurry rush. Anytime I fought Lionels, like, it felt so stupid. Like, okay, just step out of the way of their attack, and then get the counterattack that I didn't earn, because I was supposed to push the counterattack button, like, when they were attacking me. That's how it's supposed to go, right? Nope. You just walk out of the way, dodge manually, and then push the button, and the combat just didn't feel good. And I broke a lot of shields letting robot spiders shoot at me. At the top of the B tier, a much, much, much better game than Breath of the Wild, is The Adventure of Link on the NES. Now, this is one that a lot of Zelda players will put much, much lower. If there's a black sheep of this series, it's Spirit Tracks. If there's two black sheeps of this series, the other one is The Adventure of Link. I was there in the NES days. There was a time in my life when the only two Zelda games available were Zelda 1 and 2 on the NES. And I think it's a great game. So people are going to like, it's just nostalgia. He's just got his child. I actually didn't complete this game until I was an adult. We played it a lot as kids, but I never got further than like maybe the second palace, maybe not even much further than Death Mountain. The game is ridiculously hard, and it's got a lot of jank to it, and it just wasn't as fun to pick up and play as the original Legend of Zelda. But when I went back to it as an adult and I started kind of learning it, and not even an adult, that was in high school, so 16, 17 maybe, when I got a copy on the NES. Anyway, every time I go back to the game, I go into it feeling like, okay, I gotta psych up and play, like, Adventure of Link. Like, I know it's gonna be jank, I know it's gonna be a bad time, I'm just gonna rough it out. But every time I go back and play it, it turns out to be a lot better than I remember it being, and I enjoy it more and more every time I play it. I don't get better at it. I feel like every time I play it, I annoy my YouTube chat on my stream, because I tend to solve problems in Adventure of Link by just throwing my fat, stupid head at it and tanking the damage, which is not the correct way to play the game, but hey, it gets me to the end. And also, I have a red Return of Ganon t-shirt, so I'm actually repping the fandom of Adventure of Link. So the only question now is, of the remaining games, which ones are A tier and which ones are S tier? The very bottom of the A tier, the very worst of the best, is going to be Twilight Princess. This one surprised me, actually, because I played Twilight Princess the first time on the Wii, and I did not like it. Again, you're waving your Wiimote around to swing your sword. When the game came out, it was a dual release on the Wii, which was very, very new at the time, and the GameCube, which was very, very old at the time. And you had your choice. You could buy whichever version you wanted. Well, I just bought a Wii, so I'm like, of course I'm buying it for the Wii. If I had a time machine, and I had the choice to either go back in time and prevent the Kennedy assassination, or go back in time and tell Brick Road in 2006 to get the GameCube version of Twilight Princess, I would do that. I would go back in 2006, tell myself to get the GameCube version. Because when I played the HD version of Twilight Princess, which came out on the Wii U, which had button controls for the sword, I found that I actually really, really liked it. It was so much better. I almost couldn't believe how much better it was. If you don't believe me, I've got VODs on my YouTube channel. Go back and do a search. Watch the playthrough of Twilight Princess. I enjoyed it so much more with just the button controls. And looking at you, Phantom Hourglass, Train Game, and whatever down there in the F tier, like, if you guys ever want to come out, like, get a remaster version, HD version with, like, button controls, maybe you can climb a few steps. Twilight Princess on the Wii, for me, would be a very low C game. Like, I would put it down below the Oracle games, because the game itself is great. The dungeons are great. You get really fun items. The story actually has a lot going for it. Has a killer soundtrack. You have to love Midna. Midna is my favorite Zelda character. But it has the motion controls. But if you take those away and play a version of the game that has a controller, instant A tier. Alright, so who have I pissed off? I've pissed off the DS fanboys. I've pissed off the Breath of the Wild fanboys. I've pissed off, like, the modern Zelda fans. Now I gotta piss off some old school, grognard Zelda fans, because slumming it in the middle of A tier is the original Legend of Zelda. Didn't make it into S. None of you saw that coming. All of you were like, he's gonna put at the top of the S tier, original. Nope, it's just not. Sorry. Why? Dark Nut and Wizrobe rooms. What can I tell you? I just hate those rooms. Now, I do love Zelda, and I play it constantly. I played it. We did Zelda Randomizer for years and years. It's a game that I can almost just close my eyes and play in my own head. I know the game so well. But I think there is more jank in the original Legend of Zelda than there is in Adventure of Link. And I'm going to explain exactly why. In the Adventure of Link, you're only fighting on two axes. Enemies are either coming at you from the left or they're coming at you from the right. And you can fight them in either direction, but you have control over which direction you're facing, and then you can, of course, you can jump up and down. In the original Legend of Zelda, you're fighting on four axes. No, that's... I just made every geometry major mad. I'm sorry, you're fighting on two axes, an X and a Y. There's four directions, two X. I flunked out of college. I don't want to tell you. I'm a college dropout. I don't know anything. But no, in Zelda, you're going up, down, left, and right, and enemies can change direction and will do so randomly and without any fanfare. Like, this is especially tricky when you're fighting Darknuts or Wizrobes or Dodongos, and a lot of the time you're just kind of fighting blind and hoping your sword is going to intersect with the enemy. You end up walking into enemies a lot, enemies walk into you a lot. There's really no good way through the original Legend of Zelda without just tanking a lot of damage. So, yeah, for that reason, I think it deserves a spot in the middle A tier, which is still pretty good. Alright, the next game I'm placing in the A tier, and this is recency bias, because as of recording, I actually still have not completed this game. I've got like 1 or 2 dungeons left, but I was so impressed with Echoes of Wisdom. The only reason I haven't gone back to complete and probably replay this game a few times is I don't have a good working Switch controller. I have like a crappy controller that only kind of works, so playing any Switch game for me right now is a chore. But I think Echoes of Wisdom does a much better job with rewarding player creativity and expression than Tears of the Kingdom does. Echoes of Wisdom, every time I had like a weird idea about how something should work, or how, like something I could put together, it actually did work the way I thought it would, which made me very happy. I love the story of this game. I love that you play as Zelda instead of Link. I love that Zelda doesn't have just a sword by default, so she has to approach every combat encounter with her magic. Like, it comes down to like what object or monster is the best to summon in this particular situation. And because you have so much creativity and freedom, you can solve problems in a lot of ways, and the game does not get in your way. Very early on, the game just kind of steps back and is like, do what you want to do. And if what you want to do is stack beds up to get on top of the trees and walk along treetops to go to the corners of the map you're not supposed to be to yet, like, just finger guns, Hoss, have your fun. And I really appreciated that coming out of Tears of the Kingdom, which felt like it was getting in my way over and over. One of these days I've just got to invest in a Switch controller that's not going to break immediately, and go back and finish this game. We still have one more Zelda game to place in the A tier, and it is Legend of Zelda:
A Link Between Worlds. I adore this game. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. The gameplay is phenomenal. Every dungeon is excellent. Your kit is excellent. I love the story. I think this game does the dual world situation better than any game in the series, except maybe Link to the Past. Yeah, phenomenal game. It's stuck on a handheld. If you want, I can't give this game an S rank because it's stuck on a handheld. That's the only way you can play it. This game definitely needs a remaster. Of course, if they remaster it now, it's going to be on Switch too, so I can't play it anyway. But yeah, absolutely adore this game. And it's a course correction, because this is the third DS game after the two with the terrible controls. Look how much difference good controls make. Zelda games, my goodness. Speaking of games that are stuck on handheld, I guess I should point out that this is the only Zelda game permanently stuck on handheld as of now. Every other game on this list, I've been able to play on console. So Minish Cap, I played on the Wii U. The Oracle's games, I played on my Game Boy player on the GameCube. And I think they're also available to play on the Game Boy service on Switch. The two DS games at the very bottom of the list, those are both, they were available on the Wii U. The Wii U store is not up anymore. I don't know if you can still play those. I don't know if you can... I can play them because they're on my Wii U forever. Lucky me. I don't know if those are even available anywhere right now. I guess I hadn't thought about that. Anyway, we are now going into the S tier. The best of the best Zelda games. And my favorites, beginning with Link's Awakening, is at the bottom of the S tier. This is the classic Game Boy game. I adore this game. The Game Boy version is S tier, in my opinion. Just in terms of item interactions and dungeon layouts, and it has really, really fun, clever boss fights. The game is funny. It's like really original. It's got a setting that fits the Zelda mold, but is also kind of a new direction for the series at the time. Really, really love this game. There's also a Switch remake. Is this the only Zelda game that's been, like, really remade? Because, yeah, there's HD versions of, like, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, but they're, like, the same games with, like, a couple of updates. The Link's Awakening remake for the Switch is pretty much a new game, just with the old maps and stuff. And that game is also an S tier. I decided not to put both of them on this list as separate games, because, remember, originally this is supposed to be, like, ramping up to my Zelda dungeon tier list video that I still want to make someday, and the dungeons between the two versions are not appreciably different. They're essentially the same dungeons. Anyway, love Link's Awakening. This is another one where I've gone real deep into the randomizer. I really like the Link's Awakening randomizer a lot, and it probably does not surprise any of you how the rest of this S tier is going to shake out. Coming in number 2 in the S tier is A Link to the Past, which is just the pinnacle of 2D Zelda adventure. They got it right. Well, they didn't get it right the first time, right? Because they started out on the NES, where they're kind of proof of concept. What does a top-down adventure action game look like, where you have puzzles and riddles and whatnot? Well, we got the proof of concept. What are we going to do with the sequel? We're going to make it a platformer and stuff. Well, okay, people didn't like that so much. We're going to go back to the original formula, but now we're on better hardware. What can we do? We can make A Link to the Past. I don't need to describe this game. Everybody knows why it's so good. It's one of the iconic Nintendo games of the ages, and it's in the middle of my S tier. There's only one Zelda game that I love more than Link to the Past. And this wasn't easy, by the way. This wasn't easy, choosing where to place these two games. I feel like if I had sat down to record this tier list yesterday or tomorrow, I might have put Link's Awakening above it. I don't know. It just happens that tonight, at this moment in time, if I was going to pick up and play a Zelda game right now, I would prefer to play Link to the Past. Maybe tomorrow I'd prefer to play Link's Awakening. The games are so good. And they're not even that similar. They both follow the Zelda formula, but they have so many differences to them. Like, you really you can't replace one with the other. You have to have both. But sitting above both of them and all of them is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is so special to me. When this game came out, it blew my mind. It was the first... Remember, I grew up in a time where we didn't have 3D games. I grew up in the NES, SNES era. My dad had an Amiga computer. 3D games weren't a thing until the N64 came out. And the way they built Zelda in a 3D world was perfection. I'm having a difficult time thinking of a game that I've enjoyed just exploring both the geography of the game and the range of action in your character as much as I enjoyed learning Ocarina of Time back in the day. I've played this game a million times. I've gone real dumb with the randomizer. When I randomize Ocarina of Time, I randomize absolutely everything. And I've done runs of this game where I've had to find like 99 Skulltulas, and I've hunted all of them down and then immediately started over to do it again. That happened on stream a couple times. So yeah, I get that modern opinions on Ocarina of Time are starting to backslide a little bit. The game's dated, it's retro, people have nostalgia for it, but it really did invent the 3D action adventure game. No other game can claim that crown. No other 3D action adventure game before Ocarina did it to the extent that Ocarina did. And it's just one of the most beautiful games ever made. I love the soundtrack. I love the way it looks and plays. Love everything about it. It is the top Zelda game for me, and it has the best dungeons. I kind of want to play Ocarina again right now. This was fun. I enjoyed putting this tier list together for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out. Sleep well.